Okay, so at the risk of boring you to death, I'll just give you a very quick potted sort of narrative thing about it. Okay, so this guy is on a desert island. We don't know exactly why he's on this desert island, and he's getting very lonely, and he goes to the island. He's on his own for ages. Then one day, one fine day, all these people turn up dressed in 1920s clothes, you know, and he's thinking, what the hell is going on? He's thinking they're probably sort of having some kind of costume party, or it's a kind of party for the elite or something like that. Because he's a fugitive, he can't disclose his whereabouts to these people. Although he's desperate for human contact, he would do so at the peril of incarceration. So he doesn't do that. However, he is on a beach one day, and this implausibly beautiful girl turns up, and then of course he falls in love with her, and he shows himself to her and tries to woo her and all the rest of it, makes a beautiful little garden, a little votive offering for her, and she completely ignores him. And actually, when you're reading the novel, you're thinking, wow, is she worth it? I mean, really, she's so rude. At least say, you know, I don't fancy you or something. I mean, really, a modicum of politeness doesn't do any harm. But she doesn't, and weirdly, actually, she takes this to ludicrous extremes. I mean, she literally just walks past him as if he doesn't exist. She walks right through his little garden that he's made for her. And then, on top of everything else, she starts going out with this ludicrously genius kind of inventor guy, played by our good friend over here, Mr. Morel. And so he's loathing him from a distance, you know, as love spurns so often becomes a kind of hatred thing for her because she's ignoring him. And this goes on and on and on, and he's being driven to distraction by this. And indeed, the reader of the novel, and because of the skillful construction of the dramaturgy, the audience also share this befuddlement. They get to a point, actually, and even as a reader, you think, oh, for fuck, sorry, you're not allowed to swear, are you? Oh, for goodness sake, hero. Now, that's the sort of nub of it, and the island imagery is not by chance, you know. I mean, I'm from an island myself. It's these interstitial places of what's solid and what's not, and what's fluid and what's corporeal and what's imagined and what's mythical and what's physical and what's metaphysical. And you really feel that when you're down by the sea. It's a kind of symbol for a deeper spiritual inquiry. And these guys would have been alive to that, and in quite a refreshing way, quite a kind of South American way of thinking about these things. So although it's a really recognizable story, that's the kind of thing that Arthur Miller was trying to achieve with his writing. He wanted a philosophy professor to like it, but a cab driver to get it. And I think this does that, because the story, the narrative, is actually quite straightforward, really. You know, it took me a couple of minutes to just delineate it. But what's really interesting is the idea about what's substantial, what's insubstantial. So basically, we're appreciating it through the POV of our joint hero. You see, we're seeing all this through his mind, his POV, because really that's kind of what the reality is. We do sort of project things onto situations. We try to, and Americans are great at this, you know, trying to see the best in things, trying to see what's possible and what's beautiful about a situation. Us Europeans always see the misery of it all immediately first. That's the first thing we go to. That's our default setting. Whereas this chap is obviously, he's got nothing left to live for. He's really at the end of his rope, you know. And it exists as a kind of pretty traditional sort of opera love story in a weird way, and yet it's obviously very dislocated by all these sorts of extra sorts of things that are happening, you know. So yeah, it's a beautiful thing. You know, Andreas was fantastic in the development of it, and he drove me and Stuart completely mad at times. But no, seriously, he's just wonderful. I really admire that. So he just continually pushed us to find deeper and deeper levels in it, and I'm really glad he did, and that we both recovered from our nervous breakdowns, Stuart and I, and, you know, managed to get to the rehearsals.